Have you heard about the West Singhbum Tamil Nadu migration corridor? There is something unusual about the corridor, as more women than men travel along this route. This corridor connects the women from West Singhbum, one of the poorest districts in Jharkhand, to the garment factories of Tamil Nadu. This migration, like other migration stories, is driven by necessity. Failing crops, deaths, medical necessities, payment of dowry force people to leave their home and family and migrate to the Bhumi industry in Tamil Nadu. This sector has a huge demand for the female migrant labor force, as there is a shortage of local labor, and this migrant labor force, they are cost effective, flexible, skilled, and they're willing to work. But though the sector provides a livelihood opportunity to these people, the sector can be very exploitative also, as many young women is trapped in the Sumangali system.
The Sumangali system offered lump sum payment to young women at the end of a working period of 3 years in the spinning mill or garment factories in Tamil Nadu. Women who signed up were overworked, confined to factory premises, and underpaid. It was promoted as an easy way to accumulate dowry for the women employees' marriage.
Let me introduce you to someone who has lived this experience. Meet Ishavati Gop. She's 24 from the Jagannathpur block of West Singhbum. She had to migrate to Tamil Nadu when her father fell sick and there was no earning member in her family. I met Ishavati during the Jharkhand Migration Survey in 2023 under the Safe and Responsible Migration Initiative. We traveled across 24 districts of Jharkhand, capturing the lived experience of migration, especially the experience of women migrants who are often overlooked.
Our findings from Jharkhand Migration Survey reveal that most labor migrants from Jharkhand are men. In fact, women make up only 9% of the migrant labor force. But when they do migrate, they tend to work in agriculture, bricklayer, domestic service, and garment industry. According to the survey, the outflow of labor migrants from the state is highest at 23% in the age group between 20 to 24. Interestingly, there are more young women than men in the same age bracket as a share of total labor migrants.
These women's stories are powerful, just like Ishavati's. Let me tell you a bit more about her. Eldest among the 6 siblings, Ishavati always engaged in household chores and farming. But her parents never allowed her to migrate outside, though other girls from the village had already started going out for work.
जाने नहीं देता है इसलिए।
तो जब पापा बीमार पड़े तब जाने दिया?
क्या बोल के नहीं जाने देते हैं? इतना दूर मत जाओ बोल के। अच्छा। घर में भी इतना काम होता है ना, खेती, इसलिए।
But things changed when her father fell ill. The family needed money and Ishavati had to step in. I remember that she told me how she decided to migrate. She said,
क्या मतलब कैसे सोच लिया कि जाना है?
घर में मजबूरी है। मेरे पापा का बुखार हो रहा था तो ठीक नहीं हो रहा था तो पैसा नहीं, पापा बुखार हो रहा था और मम्मी भी कुछ नहीं, बोला भैया लोग भी कोई।
Women like Ishavati migrate for very different reasons than men do. While men often migrate as a long-term strategy to find consistent work, women usually migrate because of immediate crisis, like medical emergency, dowry payment, or a debt. They don't usually migrate until they absolutely have to. For women from West Singhbum, the journey to Tamil Nadu is no small feat. They travel over 1800 kilometers to reach the garment factories. Imagine how daunting that must have been for someone like Ishavati, who had never even traveled to the district headquarters of Chaibasa, which is 46 kilometers away from her village. But despite her fear, she was not alone. She traveled with 3 other girls from nearby villages, and when I asked her if she was scared, she told me,
दीदी का साथ था ना, वो उसका साथ था तो डर नहीं लगा।
This kind of solidarity is often the only thing that makes her journey possible. During our conversation, Ishavati recounted in details her time in Tiruchirappalli, where she stayed in the company-provided hostel. When she got into the factory of Tiruchirappalli, she didn't have any idea about stitching, but she learned quickly. She worked from 9 a.m. in the morning to 6 p.m. in the evening, separating good clothes from the damaged ones. Her pay, it was 7,000 per month, but most of it went to her family. And when I asked her if she was getting paid for the overtime, she said,
कब से कब तक काम करना पड़ता था? रोज
मतलब 9 से कितना बजे तक काम करना पड़ता था? 9 से शुरू होता
6
था
बजे
6 बजे तक। बीच में
कभी कभी रात में भी काम होता है।
रात 6 बजे तक।
रात 9 बजे से 11 बजे तक।
अच्छा, उसको ओटी बोलते हैं ना?
हाँ ओटी
मतलब उसके लिए अलग पैसा मिलता था कि नहीं?
मिलता था।
कितना?
पता नहीं, वो एक साथ देता है तो हमको नहीं।
She told me that despite being adults, the female workers were not allowed to leave the hostel premises unaccompanied. On the weekly day off, they could go out, but only under the supervision of a madam who took them to temples, cinema halls, shopping malls, medical clinics, even beauty parlors. But despite spending 5 months in Tiruchirappalli before coming back to West Singhum, Ishavati never joined these outings.
कहाँ कहाँ घूमे फिर?
हम कहीं भी नहीं गए।
अच्छा,
कहीं भी नहीं गए? क्यों?
नहीं गई।
मतलब मैडम के साथ अब कहीं नहीं निकलती थी?
नहीं,
तो अब
वो
क्या
जाते थे और बाकी सब हम नहीं गए।
तो अब घर में क्या करती थी?
जो
घर
छुट्टी का
में?
दिन था हॉस्टल में।
उधर घर में उधर सिनेमा टीवी सब है ना, उधर देखते हुए।
टीवी है वहाँ पे।
हाँ।
और मतलब ऑफिस से लौट के क्या करती थी? फैक्ट्री से लौट के
आके कुछ नहीं, आराम करते थे और वो टीवी देख सकते हैं।
As she began to embrace her new life 1800 kilometers away from her home, she found solace in the workload of the factory, which felt comparatively lighter than the grind of household chores. Our survey reveals that cultural norms ascribe household responsibilities and unpaid care work to women, which often restrict them from accessing paid opportunities. Additionally, gender norms also deprive women from rest or leisure. But in the workplace, where the work is contractual and the conditions are far from being ideal, there is still some provision for resting. But here's the thing, even though Ishavati was earning her own money, she had little control over it. From her salary, she sent 6,000 to her parents and she only kept 1,000 for her daily expenses. From that money, her parents bought household items, her sister bought an anklet, and the rest went for farming. I remember asking her that if she ever thought about buying a smartphone. She said,
तो अच्छा, जो पैसा मिला उससे आपको खुद के लिए बड़ा फोन खरीदने का मन नहीं किया?
मन कर रहा था मेरा भैया मत खरीद करो, घर में एक टू है वो पकड़ना मिल।
अच्छा, तो वो फोन कौन कौन यूज करता है, बड़ा वाला फोन?
घर में सब लोग हैं।
though she had adjusted in her new life in Tamil Nadu, life had different plans for her. After a few months of working there, she fell ill, and though she stayed there for a few weeks in the hostel and even saw a doctor, at the end her parents asked her to come back as they thought that she will be treated better with traditional medicines. Since then, Ishavati has not gone back to Tamil Nadu, and with the talk of a marriage swirling around, she is not going back anytime soon. I remember asking her,
मतलब अभी भी आपको अगर मिले काम तो आप जाना चाहोगे?
मिलेगा तो जाएंगे।
और किस तरीके का काम करना है? कपड़ा फैक्ट्री में ही काम करना है?
हाँ, तो पहले फर्स्ट में वही में काम किया था, कपड़ा।
but with her family looking for a match, her migration journey might be over.
At first, you might think that marriage is a setback for someone like Ishavati. After all, she worked so hard to become independent, only to be pulled back home.
Ultimately, it's about the choices available to her. And marriage and migration both were difficult paths shaped by the reality she faced. Ishavati's story reminds us that empowerment comes in many forms, and it's not always as straightforward as it seems.